Hi there, this is Joanne from TrueAuthenticPower.com from Tapping.me, and I'm also the creator of the program Catapulting to Confidence. I've been running into the same kind of theme over the last couple weeks, and so I thought I would do an audio on this particular theme, which is workaholism and busyness. When I see someone who's in the workaholism category or label, or they're always on the run, or they always have to be busy, from my energetic learning, training, background, what I've been through, what I've seen other people go through, when you're diverting to something that becomes your habit, there's usually something that started that pattern, and what are you trying to run away from? Workaholism is an addiction just like anything else. Busyness is an addiction just like any other addiction. But because it's more socially acceptable, people don't necessarily always look at it that way. When I have worked with people who are workaholics or very busy, they have most definitely been trying to outrun some emotions of the past, some patterns of the past, some people of the past. And as with any other audio, I'm starting to really go into why do you do that? How does the pattern form? Because you learn that somehow. There's something that you saw, or you found that if you did that, it overruled some of the emotions, or you could outrun some of your emotions. And I think it's really important for people to understand when you're running on exhaust fumes or you can't stop, otherwise you get anxious, there is something driving that bus. And I want to talk more and more now about what I've coined the negative MEEPs, the modeling before the age of 7, the emotions that maybe got stuck from the second E, which is the emotional events, and then the patterns that form and the stories that get linked. That developed into a observation from me because every single client seemed to fit into that pattern, that assessment, that it was over and over again the same thing, in other words. And so when I see people who are busy or can't stop or push themselves or whatever, there's something underneath that. And it's not comfort and just wanting to get ahead or wanting to provide. There might be a fear there won't be enough. There might be some tragedy and trauma that they're trying to outrun emotionally. If you keep busy enough to the point where you drop when you go to sleep, I would suggest that there's something there that you're trying to outrun. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you keep yourself so busy, so on the move, so overburdened with to-dos that you have to drop? Because if you don't do something to shut those feelings down, hide from them, put them out of your vision, at least your conscious vision, you will feel them. And there's too much pain a lot of times associated. Does it happen for everybody? I can't say if it does or not, but I know in my experience as an energy coach, I've seen that a lot. There's usually something, there has been something underneath that somebody is trying to outrun. And part of that also goes on to, if that already fits your pattern, and then you are learning from people who are workaholics or busy all the time, you learn that that becomes normal. So it might be something that you learned before the age of 7. It might have kept you out of trouble. It might have been that that's what you saw and that's what you believe is true. But it also could be the emotions or the emotional impact of events that have you in a grip. And then that's why the patterns start to develop and form. And then the story becomes, well, I do this for them, or I do this for my family, or I'm not sure that that's always the case. You can never say never. You can never say always. And probably sometimes I do that by mistake. But my point of view is I've seen enough to see that some or all of those MEEPs are in place when somebody is in a workaholism kind of mentality or busyness. It helps you outrun. It helps you cope. It helps you do what you think you're supposed to do on some level. But I wonder what's going on underneath when you pull back the curtain, pull back the layers, as is said. What's going on underneath? What happened in your childhood before the age of 7? Did you see workaholism? Did you have some kind of emotion or emotional upsets that you're trying to outrun? And has it developed into a pattern to cope? Because it's more acceptable doesn't necessarily make it more acceptable. It's just society views making money and striving and getting ahead and as a good thing instead of taking a drink, instead of looking at porn, instead of downing sugar, instead of pick the, gambling. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. What are you trying to outrun? What are you trying to escape from? What are you trying not to think about? What pain is stuck in your energy system? So then you might be saying, yeah, but if I stop, the thoughts come up, the anxiety comes up, the nervous tension comes up, and I can't cope with that either. So what am I to do? Well, my first suggestion would be to get to the energy of it. And people don't quite understand. When I say in a client session with me, you will notice a positive change in the first hour, I literally mean you will feel differently. And I don't mean just in the session when you're interacting with me that you'll feel better. I'm not talking like the relief you get after a good cry. I'm talking about you will feel something's different and you can't necessarily describe it. It's not something you can necessarily put into words because it's working on your nervous system and your energy system. If somebody is trying to outrun a tragedy from their youth or even some kind of trauma in adulthood, you use things, we use things, I have used things when those pocketed things have not been released. And what I'm talking about is when your nervous system gets overloaded, when you are trying to outrun tragedy or something that affected you in childhood as a young person, how do you cope with those things? Who tells you how to deal with those things? There's no guidebook. There's no rule guide. There's no how-to manual. But what happens is it creates a sizzle in your subconscious mind to say, remember this, check. That's a very painful thing. Stay away from it. Find a way to stay away from it. It can also affect your nervous system and your body. And your body says, check, here's what happened. Are you remembering? And it may start with symptoms, underlying anxiety, sleep issues, migraines. Those are all signs and symptoms that something has gotten out of balance. Those are not things that you have to live with. They're messages from your body to say something has gone awry here. And your body is saying, wait, hold it, pay attention. What's going on? Why is this change happening now? That happened for me after my dad died, who I was very close to. I developed asthma and bronchitis. I had never had either before. And I remember questioning, where did this come from? Why all of a sudden now? I didn't know it then, but grief can settle into your chest among other places, but it can land in your heart, in your lungs as a grief center where it kind of holds. I didn't know that consciously. I didn't do it consciously, but the shock and trauma of losing him was huge, and I didn't even emotionally react. It's like a stun gun hit me. I went into freeze, but my body said, something's up here. And I will also say I started with a whole slew of allergies. Because I couldn't breathe, I went to an allergist. It wasn't any of those things. It was the trauma and tragedy and the grief of losing my dad. And nobody tells us how to process these things, but you can. I tend to use a tapping tool or some other energy frequency tools. I'm not saying tapping is the end-all be-all. Some people don't necessarily gravitate to that. They might gravitate to something else, but it's got to move the energy. It's got to address the nervous system interruption, the frequency that interrupted something in your body that's now your body is giving you symptoms. Those are not bad things. They're not things to shut down. They're things to pay attention to and to undo energetically, emotionally, and subconsciously, because you can replay that for decades. You can replay it for decades, which is why I went to sugar, because it made me temporarily feel better. Not saying that's a good avenue. We've all heard how, how great sugar is for your body. Not. But I needed to shut down. There were so many things happening. And I'm not talking at the time that my dad died. I'm talking fast forward into a slew of things that became unbearably difficult that I just could not cope. I had to find a way to cope, to shut down the pain that was so pervasive. I was having nightmares. I was having daymares. I was coming apart at the seams. And that was my, quote, drug of choice. Not saying it's healthy, not suggesting you do that, but I'm saying I've been in that routine. I know what that feels like. I could not escape fast enough. The pain was so intense of multiple things that came out of the blue, shocking, traumatic, interrupted my nervous system. For the first time ever, I developed a panic attack syndrome. I never had panic attacks in my life. I was in sales. And I was good at sales. You don't get good at sales when you're worried about what somebody else is going to think or say, or the no's, or the... No, I didn't have any of those issues until my nervous system got so rocked, until my body started speaking so loudly, until my subconscious was saying, oh my gosh, will you just shut down this pain because I cannot cope. That's not any different than workaholism. That's not any different than constant busyness. It's not any different than any other addiction. But I will tell you this, when you get to the other side of those things, you don't need the crutch. The addiction seems to soften. You learn to work with your body and your energy system. I tend to use tapping, EFT tapping, and I know how to get to those underlying things, and I look at the negative MEEPs, the modeling before age 7, the emotions that might have gotten stuck from emotional events that were traumatic or devastating or whatever label that feels negative that you want to put on it, the patterns that developed, and the story that continues. If you target those different things, you will probably find what you're running from. Now, the question is, how do you undo it? Tapping looks very easy. The mechanics of it are very easy. How to get to the underlying things with precision and snuffing those things out and finding the thread that keeps replaying, that takes skill. And if you've got some big devastating things, part of the subconscious will shut down those things to say, don't go near that. You'll get the triggers. You'll know not to go near that. But if you're not supposed to go near it, how are you supposed to clear it on your own? That's why coming to a coach, especially an energy coach that knows how to get to those undercurrent things, that's why someone like me can help someone who's in that kind of loop, in that kind of scenario. And I speak from experience with that too. My pains, my traumas that happened one after another, and these were, devastating things that came out of the blue, life and death kind of things, over my head with accountability and responsibility. It was not normal. It was not a normal time of life. It was not normal circumstances. They were not normal circumstances. They were over the top, one after another. I got pounded, as a lot of people do. I'm not saying that's even unusual. I'm just saying, from my experience, that's what happened. I couldn't shut down fast enough because the emotional pain was unbelievably hard, strong, with me wherever I go. And not for nothing, but at the time, because I had been a caretaker and saw all this trauma and witnessed all this trauma for someone that I loved, 2 people that I loved, it left me absolutely flattened, physically, energetically, emotionally. I was distraught, and for me, I went almost to nothing. The busyness is for a different way of coping. People go into overdrive a lot of times to cover up. Everybody's different, and you don't know how the energy is going to work out for you. You don't know how it's going to manifest for you. But I will tell you things like sleep, nervousness, panic attacks, anxiety attacks. Did I mention migraines, headaches, pains, aches and pains of all kinds? Those things will grip you and grab you, and it's your body's way to say, hold it, stop. There's something here that's gotten out of balance, and I'm trying to get your attention. Don't shut those things down. They're there to help you. That's when you need to go to your nervous system. That's when you need to clear the subconscious beliefs. That's when you need to clear the interruptions that have sizzled your body and its functions. I can't tell you the miracles that I've seen when that happens. And yes, I'm using the words miracles. I'm not claiming to have created those miracles. I'm claiming that I can help you help your energy get to those spots, to release them, to be free of them, and to overcome how you're working out by running, by addictions, by how you need to soothe yourself. Punishment is not the way. Dropping dead from overwork or being exhausted or creating more health issues from being busy all the time, that's not healthy. And it's going to catch up eventually because your body, your mind, your system, your energy field is trying to tell you there's something here that needs to be addressed. I hope that this helps. I hope that you can see how some of those events would happen. A lot of times, they might be things that you've witnessed. You might not have even gone through them yourself. As was the case with my sweetheart Ray, yes, I was being emotionally affected and I was caretaking him, which was way over the top for me. But I was also watching a loved one go through this horrendous journey. And if you've ever witnessed a trauma, that can get stuck in you too. You don't even have to be part of it. Well, I was part of it because I was taking care of him. But I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't even have to have happened to you. If you've witnessed something in childhood, if you saw your parents going through something in childhood, or something was a threat to one of your siblings or someone around you or a friend, or those things can absolutely affect and sizzle your energy, causing your body to get out of sync, causing your nervous system to go into overdrive, causing you to try to shut it down because it's too traumatic to cope with. And I just want to put in another little addition here because people will say, oh, that can't be related, and it's something early on, before the age of 7. That happened either in modeling or what you saw growing up or what happened, what you experienced. When you are a little child, things that you can perceive as an adult of not that big a deal can be huge to a 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-year-old. It can be devastating to them and shock them and scare them because they don't have any experience to be able to cope. Not that a lot of adults have experience to be able to cope either, because who teaches us how to do all this stuff, right? So tell me, have you had any of these kind of experiences where it drives your busyness, where there might not be enough and you're scared, so you keep working and working, hoping there will be enough? You will never outrun that pain. I've heard from many millionaires who have said, it doesn't matter how much money you make. There's still that undercurrent of, will there be enough? Will I run out? Will I go through what my parents did? Is there a scarcity belief? There's something that programmed all of that in. You didn't just come out of the womb expecting to be in scarcity. I'm just giving these audio samples to say, look at what you're doing. Understand your energy, because once you do, you'll start to understand why you're doing what you do. You won't have to beat yourself up, but then you'll be seeking, how do I clear this? How do I get out of this? How do I change or release this? It's not even about changing it. You want to release it, and that's more than possible when you know how to do it. I am an EFT coach. I know how to get to those roots. I know how to help your energy, your body, rebalance so that you don't have to live with that kind of stuff. And then you learn how to break your patterns. And it doesn't have to be white knuckling to break patterns. When you get to the underlying source, your energy system calms down. Your body calms down. The symptoms start to go away without covering them up with any kind of outside fix or shutdown to symptoms. Aches and pains will release. Symptoms of all kinds have been known to just dissolve. Why would that be? Because you finally have addressed the energy, the subconscious, the body systems, and why you've needed to keep that alive. If you need to cope, that's why people can't quit addictions. My opinion. I'm not a medical person. I'm talking strictly from an energetic point of view. You can't give up an addiction if the pain is still there. That's why the white knuckling doesn't go away. But if you can clear out the undercurrent, you don't need to run. You don't need to cover up the pain because the pain is no longer there. It's dissolved. You may remember the memory, but you won't feel the charge, the trigger, the anxiety, the, oh, get out of here. How can I soothe myself? I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I have been in those shoes. And I have used those tools. TV and sugar were my go-tos. I was already flattened from some of these events. I hardly had any energy at all. I don't know how people go through some of those things and beef up their energy to go the other way. That amazes me because I was just out. I had nothing left. And it took me way too long to figure all that out, even though I did a lot of sessions with other people. If they don't know how to get to the trauma, the energy system, yeah, that's been my experience. My experience not only going through it, my experience as a coach. And I would love to be able to have other people learn how to take care of those things before they turn into illnesses, before they turn into shock patterns that take years to decades out of your life. And it's amazing what kind of things can show up when you get your energy righted around. And that's what I help people do. I'm an energy educator. I'm a success coach and an energy educator. I work mostly on what's got you in a grip. Why is it there? How to release it, how to show you how to release it, work with you to release it, and then voila, you see the rest of the changes. So have you experienced any of this kind of stuff? Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you see those kind of patterns that something started and then it continued and you've got this thread that replays and replays and replays, whether it's about love or money or workaholism or anything? It doesn't matter what the topic is. If you're playing a loop and you can see that you're playing a loop and you keep doing it and you say to yourself, why does this keep happening? Boom, right there. You've got something going on underneath. I started with workaholism and busyness because that seems to be such an acceptable, but you're making money and you're getting success and the, one with the most toys wins at the end. No. You can drop dead from exhaustion. You can drop dead from no balance. Your family might never see you. How is that? That's not balanced. But then my value system might be different than others. I'm just saying. For me, that wouldn't be okay at all. Because where's the joy? Where's the pleasure? Where's the interaction? Where's the relaxation? Contentment can be had and you still want to strive, but it's not with a pushing or, oh my gosh, if I stop, all will be lost, or I can't stop. That's not the same as I can take a break and all will be okay. Or I can pull back and it'll still be great. Or it's okay if I take time off. I don't hear a lot of that kind of language on the internet gurus that are constantly pushing and going and pushing and going and pushing and going. There's something underneath all that. And maybe, they're content to stay that way, but I would suspect there's more underneath. So I do these audio videos to give you an idea of what else is going on, how to at least start to look at those things that are going on and see, okay, what is this trying to teach me? Tell me what has gotten stuck that needs to go, and how do I do it? If I can help at all, contact me, and I hope this helps. If you know someone that this can apply to, or they're having some other kind of looping coping mechanism of some other kind, share this with them. Help people understand that there is a way out of this. It doesn't have to take decades and years of going and talking and talking and going, because honestly, that can reinforce the pattern. That doesn't eliminate where it's holding in your body or in your nervous system or in your subconscious mind. Talking is a very conscious level. That's not where the problem is. So I hope this helps. I hope you'll share it if it has impacted you, if it has given you some explanation. If you know other people that can be helped by this, please share this. And subscribe to my channel. Put the alerts on. I talk about energy all the time. I am a tapping coach, but I'm not about doing tapping in these kind of explanations because I want you to even understand what's going on underneath. Just tapping on some anxiety, that's only a quick fix for a short term right in here and now. You've got to get to what's the loop causing that. And that's what my specialty is. So I hope this helps. Again, subscribe, put on the alerts, and until our paths cross again next time, bye-bye for now.